parents are changing. And no, it's not just age. If you've felt it, you're not imagining it. They repeat the same stories. They get irritated faster. They don't always listen the way they used to. Sometimes, it even feels like your roles are shifting. But what if this isn't random? What if there's a deeper psychological shift happening that explains all of this? You might see it as them becoming difficult, but from their side, it often feels like they're losing control. For most of your life, your parents understood the world. They knew how things worked, they made decisions, they had clarity. But over time, the world starts changing faster than they can comfortably adapt to. New technology, new ways of thinking, new expectations, and slowly, familiar patterns start disappearing. The human brain doesn't handle uncertainty easily, so when things feel unfamiliar, it naturally tries to hold on to what it already understands. That's why you might hear things like, "In our time, things were simpler." That's not how it should be done. Not necessarily because they reject change, but because they're trying to stay connected to a version of the world that still feels predictable. And underneath that, there's often discomfort they don't express directly. Now, there's another shift happening at the same time. Over the years, people start relating to time differently. Earlier in life, the focus is usually on building, achieving, and moving forward. But later, attention naturally shifts toward what feels meaningful in the present: relationships, conversations, moments that feel emotionally important. So when your parents call more often or want to spend more time talking, it's not always about needing something. Sometimes it's simply about valuing connection more. But from your perspective, when you're focused on your own goals and pace of life, it can feel like interruption. Same situation, different perspectives. And that gap can quietly create friction. There's also something deeper happening: identity. For a long time, your parents had clear roles. They were the providers, the decision makers, the ones you depended on. But as you become more independent, those roles naturally start changing. And when roles change, people often need time to adjust to who they are without them. This is why they may offer advice more often, stay involved in your decisions, or question things you feel confident about. Not necessarily to control, but to stay connected in a role that once defined them. It's less about authority and more about maintaining a sense of meaning. There's also a biological side to this. As the brain ages, certain patterns shift. Patience can reduce, flexibility can decrease, emotional responses can become quicker, so reactions may feel stronger or more immediate than before. Not always intentionally. Sometimes it's simply how the brain is processing things now. But when we experience it from the outside, it's easy to interpret it as attitude or stubbornness. And that's where most misunderstandings begin. Because what you're seeing isn't just change, it's a different phase of the same person. Growing up, your parents likely filtered a lot of their stress, fear, and uncertainty. They focused on being stable for you. Now, that layer isn't as strong as it used to be. So what you're seeing today is more of their unfiltered self. Not a completely new person, just a more visible one. And that shift can feel unfamiliar, because for the first time, you're not just relating to them as parents, you're relating to them as individuals with their own adjustments, limitations, and internal changes. Once you see it this way, a lot of their behavior starts to make more sense. It doesn't mean you'll agree with everything, but it becomes easier to understand where it's coming from. And sometimes that understanding alone changes how you respond. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause. Instead of assuming intent, you consider context. A simple shift in perspective from why are they like this to what might they be experiencing right now can change the tone of your interactions in a meaningful way. Because when behavior is understood, it often feels less personal and more situational. At the end of the day, your parents aren't becoming completely different people. They're adapting to changes in the world, in their roles, and in themselves. And like any transition, it comes with some friction, but also with an opportunity to understand them in a more complete way than before. If this made you reflect even a little, take a moment to think about your recent interactions with them. Sometimes small shifts in understanding lead to better conversations over time. Subscribe for more such content.